Right, we want now to buckle down to a discussion this morning. Of course, we take a keener look on what is happening with the cabinet. And President Uhuru Kenyatta has finally named his cabinet, we know, appointees. After a rather long wait, the list is a mix of politicians and professionals. Although the Constitution had sought to block politicians from public office, the administration has found a backdoor of bringing them in. Sooner rather than later, cabinet positions will be dominated by politicians who will dilute the noble objective of insulating the executive from politics. The dream of cabinet of technocrats is fading fast. The list had surprises, though. Some unknown names made it to the cabinet as bigwigs tumbled. Top-riding public servants or highly connected individuals who had lobbied and thought they will get positions never got a chance to the table. One of the striking developments is the creation of a position of chief administrative secretaries, and which has duly been allocated to politicians. This raises questions, first, about legality, and two, the functions. Article 132 of the Constitution lists presidential appointments, cabinet secretaries, principal secretaries, ambassadors or high commissioners, the Attorney General and the Secretary to the Cabinet. The position of Chief Administrative Secretary is not provided for in law. Perhaps the argument will be that the Constitution gives the President window to create some positions that may be required for effective administration of a government. But this must be backed by a law passed in Parliament. Moreover, this is a high-ranking position which, if the framers of the Constitution thought it to be necessary, should have expressly been provided for. It will be important to see how the President will justify this position. How different will it be from a Cabinet Secretary or a Principal Secretary? Arguably, the position looks like the defunct assistant ministers, and it is curious that most of the appointees are politicians, which reinforces the point that this is really not a technical job in government, but political. It serves to create a bloated bureaucracy. When the Constitution prescribed the number of cabinet secretaries, put a caveat at 22. The objective was to ensure a lean government. But when new layers are introduced at the top level, the spirit of the law is negated. Why even are we having a opted cabinet secretary without a portfolio? That's a probing question. The question of the day that we're asking you this morning is this: do you think the government is rowing back on its commitment to tame the wage bill? Do you think the government is rowing back on its commitment to tame the wage bill? You can hit us on Twitter. AM Live NTV is a Twitter handle. AM Live NTV is a profile name on Facebook, and 20505 is our SMS portal. Allow me to introduce our panelists this morning who are with us to take us through this particular discussion and a raft of other issues. Of course, also tomorrow we know is a big day for NASA. They're eagerly waiting to say in the Right Honorable Raila Odinga as well, and that we shall also put it into perspective as well. We have Farah Maalim with us, who is the Deputy Leader of the Wiper Party. Also, we do have with us Dr. Shem Ochuodho, who is the Global Leader of Kenya Diaspora Alliance. We do have with us as well Governor Muthomi Njuki, who is the Governor of Tharaka-Nithi. We have David Makali, who is the Head of Content, Star and Radio Africa Group. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
First of all, your reaction to the new Uhuru's Dream Team, Farah Maalim. Let's begin with you.
Well, I'm one person who firmly believes in the freedom of a party that is in power at that time, or the leadership of that party, to determine who it wants to work with.
Yes.
It's simple as that. Mm-hmm. It's not for us to criticize. If we feel it's not good enough, then we should be very happy that the government will not perform, the opposition I'm talking about, and basically prepare yourself again for the next election. So I see politicians, I see technocrats, I see people I have a lot of respect for. I see some who have been in the political wheeling and dealing for quite a long time. And basically, one time describing opposition leaders as almost like saints, and now doing the same also for Uhuru. I mean, it's normal. I mean, this kind of double talk and triple talk has become it's become a culture, a tradition right now in the political class. I have a problem with that myself, but nonetheless, let's see how they perform. I mean, he has rewarded loyalty. One thing I must give him credit for is that Uhuru has always rewarded loyalty, and this is not the first time. I remember when the late Bonea Godana, who was a very close friend of his, we were going to nominate people for East African Parliament, Yala. And Uhuru, who was in Kano that time, said you had to give 3 names or 2 names. But he said, Sarah Godana number 1, Sarah Godana number 2, Sarah Godana number 3. For him, there were no 2 ways about it. His old friend, who had been since deceased, he had to stand by his family.
Right.
So he does that. I see a lot of people who really were out to support him. Some who worked with him in the Treasury. I mean, Rotich and him go a long way back. And people make the assumption, the wrong assumption, that Rotich, coming from Rift Valley, is a nominee of the Deputy President. No. He has a history with Uhuru when he was in the Treasury, and who did not have any experience in the Treasury. So these were the people who took him by the hand and showed him around those days. So this time, now that he's a big man, the Prima, the Don, you can see him coming with a lot of his old friends. Some of them, there's been such a powerful outrage against them, like Kiunjuri. The entire mountain region block, part of it, was opposed to him. But he has come with him a long way, and I think he has stood by him. Rachel Omamo, it's not something that starts now.
Right.
It's a family relationship.
Okay.
Omamo was a good friend of his father, and he has maintained that. It's something that I wish also we could have in the opposition, because when we were in ODM ourselves, Chengon Eko, one person who I didn't care what mistakes he makes, I always would hold him on my head because of history. We failed to do that. We sponsored somebody against him, and the poor guy did not go to parliament that time. So right. there's a lot of history that has been respected. To that extent, I respect him. But whether they're going to perform or not, that's his business. We'll watch and see.
Thank you. Let's see also from Muthomi Njuki, because we have a bite here from you. This was from the Daily Nation, I think, over the weekend. And you're saying, if you may just pick it up, you're saying that we cannot be a political stronghold. There you have it on the screen, that votes. But when it comes to appointment, we are told, let me just go back a bit there. We cannot be, let me just try and wind it up so you can try and see it again. We get exactly what you're saying. There we go. You say that, wow, it's escaping me. Yeah, just a few minutes. A few seconds. There we say we cannot be a political stronghold that votes, but when it comes to appointments, we are told our votes are insufficient. And of course, we have the Tharaka-Nithi and Bomet. Leaders are upset as other regional hails the president. And you will also weigh in on this as well. And we also have a bite for you. If we may just play that bite from Governor Muthomi Njuki.
Huwezi kuwa stronghold ya siasa wakati wa kupiga kura, lakini ikifika wakati wa kupeana kazi, tunaambiwa hata kama mlipiga kura zaidi, labda zenu hazitoshi.
Sisi ni stronghold ina gani yenye ijawahi peperusha bendera kutoka 1963.
So, Mheshimiwa, why aren't you happy with this? We have CS now, Margaret Kobia, from your end as well.
You see, that is the problem.
Just lean back a bit.
That is the problem, because this country nowadays has entities that are called counties, and 47 of them. So I don't know for a very long time why most people usually mistake Tharaka-Nithi to be part of Meru County. That's not the position. Tharaka-Nithi is an independent county number 13, and therefore when you reward Meru County, the Tharaka-Nithi County does not in any way benefit from that that is given to Meru County. So I'm just putting a level for you so that you understand the difference between where you're coming from in terms of you're telling me about Kobia. Kobia is our sister, right? And we are very happy for her. And of course, we are also happy about Munye. But we have to be alive to the fact that everybody in this country who's been in political scene knows that when it comes to voting, Tharaka-Nithi County normally votes in plural. They vote facing Mount Kenya. And it's been a legacy since those days of Mheshimiwa Kibaki. When we say no, we say no. When we vote, we vote. And we are saying this time, we need to reassess our stand as far as supporting government is concerned. I'll give you a very good example. During the repeat polls, in the eastern region, Tharaka-Nithi County was the highest in terms of percentage voter turnout, 72%. While we had places that had 15%, 6%, even Meru itself did not beat Tharaka-Nithi County in terms of percentage turnout. So what happens when it comes to the time of appointments? If, honestly, what I see here is political rewarding of people who actually voted or make sense in the government, although I can see Uhuru has tried to make a balance of professionalism and in terms of who has the skills to deliver. And of course, he dropped those ones who he thought he could not deliver for him and politely took them somewhere else. Was Tharaka-Nithi County not in that category of counties that should be rewarded for their loyalty? That is my big question. And I'm not speaking for Muthomi Njuki. I am a governor of Tharaka-Nithi County. I'm not looking for any political position in terms of appointment. But if you look at the Daily Nation today, you can see that our youth are dismayed by the Shem. And they're speaking very strongly about it because these are the people we serve. And therefore, when I speak, I don't speak for myself. I speak for the county of Tharaka-Nithi and how we feel as a people.
So that's Daily Nation. You're flipping over to what page is that? What page are you flipping over to?
Let me just get the page.
Boshimo? I stand read with my copy as well. All right, you let me know once you find it.
Once I get it, I'll let you know what page it is.
Oh, okay.
It's there.
All right, let's hear from David Makali. Good morning.
I'm in sympathy with my neighbor, Governor Muthomi, except that he's using words which are very reprehensible. He's talking about rewarding his Tharaka-Nithi. But, you know, the Constitution is very clear on how those positions should be filled. It talks about the face of Kenya. So the face of Kenya may not be divided into, I don't know whether we should use ethnic communities or we should use counties to reflect the face of Kenya. Maybe that's criteria that in future may be considered. Actually, if you gave all the positions in cabinet and principal secretary level to each county in Kenya will get something. And that will probably be the best representation of the face of Kenya. So if you get a cabinet secretary, perhaps you shouldn't get a principal secretary from the same county. But if it's communities, then we say 40. How many communities? Each of them getting 43. At least a principal secretary or a cabinet secretary would be a good balance to satisfy the constitutional requirement of the face of Kenya. But I think that the appointments were, you know, left a bit of disappointments. Of course, questions have been raised about, first, the size of that cabinet, which to me is a big question. We have over 80 positions which have been created directly under the executive, which has blown up the ceiling that sort of was established by the Constitution when it said that a cabinet shall be up to 22 members, a minimum of 14. We expect to operate within that framework. And so far, the president has exhausted that except one. I mean, he has done 21 appointments. We'd have expected that perhaps those were enough, given his last cabinet, which was just below 20. That he added another position of chief administrative officer is really going to be a big issue. Because, again, where is the latitude of the president to create positions, you know, somehow in the manner he has done? What is the justification? And people don't see, especially because ministries have got different permanent principal secretaries in charge of different dockets. If you have livestock, you have fisheries, you have principal secretaries. Why would you need a chief administrative officer again to saddle the principal secretary, sort of just, you know, diminishing their authority and probably introducing conflict? So in terms of the appointment of the cabinet, one, I have an issue with the numbers. In an era where we are talking about cutting the budget, reducing the cost of governance. Yes. We're already too heavy with too many counties, too many representatives now. You want to blow up again the executive to begin competing with parliament in terms of numbers of people that are sitting on our taxpayer bill. So there's a bit of a problem there. In terms of the appointment, the quality of the people who have been appointed, again, there are questions that can be raised about deployment of talent to ministries. Yes. why is there a mismatch? You know, people being appointed with skills in this area, deployed to a ministry that you really imagine they might have challenges in terms of performance. So I see, you know, going ahead that, you know, there will be a bit of struggle by some people to manage their ministries, because some of those ministries have challenges. Others will have an easy time, but it's not going to be easy running this government going forward in the next 5 years.
All right, and the question is, of course, as you allude to, the position of a cabinet administrative secretary, yeah, as given from the Constitution, does the president really have that leeway? Is it very clear? Because he alluded to that, yes, he is consulted with the Public Service Commission, and of course with the powers that is enshrined in the Constitution, he can actually create another position as well. So in light of what we were talking about, a bloated wage bill, he's been on the forefront, you know, trying to say that yes, we need to actually tame the wage bill. But now, is he speaking from both sides of the mouth, Dr. Shem Ochuodho?
Debarl, actually, the president has gone against the Constitution. And I'll pinpoint why. But before that, allow me to record my condolence. I was shocked to learn that Ken Wafula, former chairperson of the NGO Council, died rather quietly last week in what looks like rather unusual circumstances. But having done that, Article 155(2), which talks about principal secretaries, it says there shall be established the office of principal secretary. And at sub-article 2, each state department shall be under the administration of a principal secretary. Now, when you bring somebody we are calling chief administration officer, the Constitution says who will be in charge of the administration. So you will be creating somebody above. Then will the PS still be in charge of the administration? So in my view, this is, of course, something to be interpreted by the courts. But as a layman, the PS is the one to be in charge of the administration of that portfolio. But having said that, rather than my colleagues who seem to be sugarcoating the matter of the appointments by the president, for me it's disastrous. Why do I say disastrous? One, of course, an over-bloated cabinet. You know, we are in such a situation where Kenyans are struggling, are suffering. It's only the elite who don't seem to be getting this point. Parliament, instead of reducing their salaries, they are just increasing it. Totally oblivious of the situation on the ground. Kenyans are suffering, and this is across board, whether you're talking of Central, or Tharaka-Nithi, or Homa Bay, or Northeastern, Kenyans are suffering. The economy is doing badly. Now, the signal the executive is sending, basically, no wonder Parliament is also behaving like it's doing, because that's what the executive is doing. So creating these new positions, giving the excuse that, you know, people are overworked. For me, I would start from the premise, is it that we are appointing wrong people who cannot deliver, who cannot run those departments? Maybe those are the wrong people to be there. If they're complaining, if somebody is given a portfolio and they're not able to deliver, why not try other Kenyans? Why did the president have to wait for so long to bring back more or less the same people? And talking from South Nyanza, my brother Tharaka-Nithi is one county. South Nyanza is two counties, Migori and Homa Bay County. We not only marginalized by NASA, but we also marginalized by Jubilee. There's no single appointment from South Nyanza here. You know, there are two appointments from Bondo, okay, Omamo and Tuju. Both are from Bondo. Totally none from South Nyanza. The only one we had, Ambassador Mayo in London, himself has been demoted, taken to New York. You know, that's quite a slap on the face. I'm not surprised NASA got the kind of reception they did yesterday in Homa Bay, because they're disillusioned. South Nyanza is disillusioned. It's like we don't belong to this country. So to that extent, again, let me speak as it is. There's no bigger slap on the face of the Luos than reappointing Omamo, with due respect. Even if we were to appoint a woman, it's not just any woman. Even if we were to appoint a professional, it's not just any professional. Get people who can deliver. Merit should be the key word here.
You think she was underperforming?
Well, there's nothing I can pinpoint that's outstanding that she did in her portfolio. But again, when the president was talking of, you know, inclusion, I'd thought that in this final term, when he wants to secure his legacy, I would be seeing more of those communities. I was trying to scan around if there's any Kamba majorly appointed in this government.
Yes.
I'm yet to find a major one. Maybe there are some. One may say Dr. Juma, I don't know whether she's lawyer or Kamba, But you know, the spouse is you know who it is. So I think, in all fairness, if the president meant what he was doing, and I've said on this platform before, there was a time that President Museveni never had more than 2 or 3 people from the Bahima community where he comes in his cabinet. The reason we were told was that he was saying the Bahimas have a big enough seat in President Museveni. So in terms of inclusion, I don't think the president delivered in that regard, in my opinion. But more importantly, there should have been merit. I'm trying to figure out, as an academic, what contribution is Ambassador Mina going to make in education?
Thank you. Gentlemen, let's continue pace with the conversation. And of course, I just want also to pick the page 6 of the Daily Nation, still following the conversation on this cabinet appointment, where we have also development from Tharaka-Nithi as well. If we just pick at that from the smart screen, on page 6, where they say lack of cabinet post angers Tharaka-Nithi. A section of Tharaka-Nithi residents have expressed their disappointment after President Uhuru Kenyatta failed to appoint cabinet secretary from the county. In a press briefing in Chogoria town yesterday, youth leaders demanded that the politicians rally residents to the opposition, arguing that President Kenyatta was not interested in their votes. And we have Lucy Mwende here saying, quote unquote, we will petition the county assembly to form People's Assembly, and from today we will start collecting signatures. So your people now, it seems also they'll join NASA to Uhuru Park, all the way from Tharaka-Nithi. Yeah, let's hear from your governor.
Well, I say that is extreme, of course. It's just an expression of anger in how they're feeling, all right? But forming the People's Assembly, there's a different ball game altogether. We'll have to wait and see what the MCAs can say about that. But basically, just learn and read from their mood, how they feel about this thing.
Yes.
You see, it's not about just the fact that they never got the CS position.
Yes.
It's about the distribution of those positions. If the Meru community, which includes Meru and Tharaka-Nithi County,
yes,
were to really be rewarded, why take 2 cabinet posts to Meru County and give Tharaka-Nithi none? You know, it's a question of having the face of that part of Kenya, having equal distribution of those resources, as per se. That's the basic problem.
All right, Farah Maalim, from the point of course, you've been in cabinet for long enough to know if we really do need this cabinet administrative secretary. As enshrined in the constitution, the president has the power, of course, to form up an office if he deems so, in consultation with the Public Service Commission. But do you think this is warranted? Given that, yes, we have a bloated wage bill that we normally talk about, and the president, as I mentioned before we took a short break, is being on the forefront, talking about how we can really tame this wage bill. Right now, as we know, government wage bill is one of the main items in the recurrent expenditures in Kenya today. From the presidential address, also from the 14th of March 2017, he said that 50% of tax revenue in Kenya today is used to pay the wage bill, amounting to 627 billion shillings per year for approximately 700 civil servants and elected leaders, which is a mere less than 2% of the Kenya population. And the balance of 50% tax revenue is for the rest. Do you think this is the way to go, according to President Uhuru Kenyatta?
You know, you're in a political environment. And in a political environment, rewarding friends, rewarding strongholds where you feel that you've got the support from, is there. It's not just something that is, you know, you're not working in a purely corporate fashion. You see, a corporate fashion is that you get rid of all the non-performing subsidiaries of that company itself and close it. You really don't care about the manpower. You give them their own pensions, you give them their handshakes, and they take a walk. But when you're in politics, you're there courtesy of people who have worked for you. You remember Ambassador Hempston being here sometimes back. Hempston was a very good friend. He was a Republican. And was a good friend of the Bushes, the first Bush, and even Reagan and the rest of them. So although he did not have any experience in foreign relations, the man was just a journalist. He was a media person. He insisted on being brought here because he had that fascination with Africa, and more particularly Kenya. They rewarded him. When John F. Kennedy appointed his own brother, who was only 33 years old, as Attorney General, it had more to do also with how much Robert Kennedy, Bob, was able to do for his brother, because Bob was literally the mover and shaker and the maker of his that. And within the Kennedy family itself, he enjoyed a very special place. But you see, that is there. You have to balance both. Like I told you from the beginning, loyalty has got to be rewarded in a sense. Performance has got to be there. Institutions have got to be also rationalized. I'm not quite sure if the appointment of how many are they? 30 or how many administrative secretaries are there?
16 actually.
There's 16.
About 22 in total.
16.
Yeah, the 16.
I doubt. I mean, if I was in Uhuru's position and I had 16 other positions that I can give an explanation, a very good logical or rational explanation.
It would be 22.
And I would still, even if they're going to be 22, because we were a little bit too ambitious when we ended up with a cabinet of only 22 or 25 as the optimum, including
22 months.
Yeah, including the president and deputy president, 25, I think. I think there is a little bit of, trying to not bend the rules, but try and get loopholes within the constitution itself and create a few other offices. For purposes of both rewarding and purpose of performance also is there. In any case, let me tell you one thing, the political environment will still be there. I mean, these people are not only going in there to perform these 5 years and do a very good work and then have a legacy and take away work from it. No, they still will want to lock and seal certain regions and hope that they will make serious inroads into them because of the appointment of these people in these positions. Have you seen the way he has located or relocated all the former cabinet? None of them was dropped. All the former cabinet are ambassadors in one place or the other. So this is a clear sign that Uhuru not only wants to keep close his friends, but he wants to have certain relevance also in the post-22, in 22 itself. The elections run up to 22. And that is an indication, by the way. That is a very powerful indication that there is not only a legacy, but a perpetuation of hopefully a desire to perpetuate the rule of that party or that clique or himself as an individual to have relevance in the politics of in this country for quite a long time to come. Don't forget the fact that he's only what, 51? He's less than 60, yeah? How old is he now? By the time he reaches 2022, how old will Uhuru be? Just 60, yeah? Just about 60.
Yep.
Yeah, still very young. So it's not like Mwai Kibaki, who was dying to get out of the office to go and get his relaxation and play his golf. I don't think that's what he has in mind. The feeling I get is that he still wants to have certain relevance in the politics of this country for quite a longer time to come, way beyond 2022. And that's why he's keeping all the old friends and all those ones who also work with him very hard right now. He has rewarded them. And you might see even many more getting posted into parastatals. Right. Musila, David Musila, and many other people who stood by him. I see them also being given certain other...
Yeah, let's say from David Makali, because I think Dr. Shem Ochuodho has raised the issue of illegality with this appointment as well, and we want to drill deeper on that and see how illegal it is for the president. First of all, of course, we do know from that point also the gender parity. The president has violated the constitution, right? First of all, and we know also Judge Onguto had ruled out, there was a litigation against the cabinet constitution itself, and still the president has not met the threshold as far as this is concerned as well. Maybe that one particular post that has been left vacant could be or try and balance so far, but we do not really know.
Actually, I'm informed by Shem that all the positions are filled. They're actually 22 if you add Raphael Tuju, who is the minister without portfolio. I think that, if we want to uphold the rule of law, and the president has demonstrated or said that he wants to abide by the rule of law, as we saw in the election challenges, then he should follow the law all the way. I don't see why he always fails to, accomplish this particular feat of the 1/3. And the challenge, to me, doesn't seem big. I mean, he can chop a few men from his cabinet and appoint 2 women to really comply and impress that particular constituency. As long as he's not doing that, and I think this time the challenge is going to be mounted very vigorously, both on the creation of the position of Chief Administrative Officer, the CAS, and then non-compliance with the 2/3 gender rule, because the court has already pronounced itself on that matter. The High Court did, and as far as we can tell, there was no appeal against that finding that the cabinet needs to comply with that requirement in the constitution. Why this keeps happening, we don't know. I mean, we can look back and say in the Uhuru 1 administration, of course, the president made a lot of unconstitutional moves which had to be reversed to his embarrassment, quite many. People said he wasn't well advised by the Attorney General, Professor Githu Muigai. But again, there is evidence that Githu might have been rendering his opinion and advice to the government, but Uhuru may not have been taking that advice. As I'm sure this advice on the creation of these positions, and Shem has pointed out from the Constitution, Article 155, there is no room. Of course, the president there's a room where the president has to create an executive order to do certain things as head of state. But does it include creation of positions? And if it does, indeed, if it is a position that is not political, if it's not a political appointment, then it needs to be filled through competitive procedure. And so the positions which have been filled, if they were created by the Public Service Commission, as he made reference to, that he has taken the advice of, the Public Service Commission cannot advise on creation of political jobs because those are not in its purview. So clearly there's something here that has to be sorted out, and I think the sooner the better. Otherwise, somebody is going to go to court, and I know Kenyans have become very litigious on these matters. I don't see this holding.
So the fact is also the Public Service Commission also has to advertise these positions.
Yes, if they're within the public service. But you see what he has done, he has put them above the principal secretaries, which means then the principal secretaries, then the chief administrative officers are actually deputies or assistants to cabinet secretaries. But that is what it implies. But then there is no provision like that in the Constitution because the people who are in charge directly below the cabinet secretaries, according to the Constitution, are principal secretaries. So where do you place these people in this no man's land and give them authority? Which one will they be exercising?
As a matter of fact, Debarl, I recall about 3 months ago, positions for PSS were actually advertised.
Yes.
And I would want to believe people applied. I'm also aware of people, particularly from diaspora, who said, forget it, there's no point. I come from the wrong pedigree. There's no point trying to apply for these positions. You will never be shortlisted, no matter how qualified one may be. But that notwithstanding, if there was already a process, and of course, as Kenya Diaspora Alliance, we've had issues with the Public Service Commission itself. I'm a bit surprised the head of that body is being rewarded. Some of us felt she had overstayed in that position because even the appointment itself, how did she get there? You know, these are issues that we must contend with. And I say this fully aware, having looked at the 22 who were appointed, 7 come from one community, 4 from the next community. So already 11, 2 communities control 50%. A third community has 3. That's 70% from 3 communities. And this is what Kenyans have been talking about. Does this country just belong to 2 or 3 communities? My thought was that the president meant when he says, this time I want an inclusive government, that it would have been reversed. I would have been happy to see more Mijikendas, more Kambas, more lawyers, and so on, even more laws, so that as a way of healing the country. But it's like the same, no matter what we say, that doesn't seem to be what's happening. But more importantly, if there was already a process of advertising, people applied, now we have people being appointed, we don't know at what point were they interviewed, how did they get selected? You know, it's a bit murky here. I think if we're talking of improving governance, and people are meeting, the heads of states are meeting in the AU, in Addis, talking about governance.
Yes.
I really think that we need to clean our country. Kenya is bleeding.
Kenya is bleeding. Let's hear from Senator Poghisio.
Well, thank you very much. You know, when it comes to cabinet, you know, there's only one authority that really determines whom they want to work with, forming their own team. This particular one has, our situation is a bit different because we have 2 people who have to agree on who becomes what. And while the communities are saying we were not included, those of us in Kanu are saying, I thought we were Ndani. What happened to Ndani? And so we have a situation where I think, because there are 2 centers here, there are 2 people here who make the decision, and agreements have to be made and maybe give and take. I think we were then shoved out ourselves. But there is hope for those of Tharaka-Nithi and so on. I think there's a few places left. I'm sure Tharaka-Nithi is politically correct. The other one is, of course, we even us, if we were to talk about communities, you know, you think about the Pokot community, which gave almost 90%. We feel like the senior most position we're given is this new thing called caste, which, as you have said, is really a subject, controversial subject. We don't know if it is there or not. And so as it's going to be challenged, it's going to be a subject of litigation, because one thing, it has no locus standi in the Constitution, and then secondly, it really, you don't know where it is a position with an office, is it got an AIE? You know, all those things, all those questions. My thinking, Debarl asked me,
yes,
these are people who will be given four-wheel drive vehicles, be given money, be given cars, and they'll roam the country. They'll roam all over the country doing politics. That's basically what they will do.
That's basically what we'll do. Of course, even right now we are talking of a very lean police force. We don't have enough police force actually to also, you know, deploy some of them to be bodyguards. And so another bloated, what does it mean also for the security of this country if you look at all these ramifications? Farah Maalim. Oh, yeah, we'll come to you.
Before you go to Farah Maalim,
please.
I want to take my stand on. I don't know what is happening with my friend today, Shem Ochuodho. He has this thing against the gender that we are trying to promote in this country. I want to tell you on this TV station today that Professor Kobia is one of the most professional and qualified people in the job that they've been doing for this country.
Yes.
So a long years of experience in civil service has enabled her to be appointed as the CS, you know, civil service. And I don't know who would have been best for that job. You complain about Amina not being able to do anything for education. That would really look like it makes sense. But was Matiang'i an educationist? He was not. But he did something for this country that has really had a paradigm shift on how education is normally run in this country, especially the exams. Rachel Umam, whether you like it or not, I don't think we've had issues in the armed forces these few days that Rachel has been there for the 5 years. I don't know whether you're looking for a coup or for something that really rattled this country, for you to see activism. So I think you should really, even as we talk about gender balance, leave the ladies to be able to take their position and in this country, whether they come from your village or not. And lastly, on the same, on this position of CS, Debarl, we are coming from regimes before the promulgation of the Constitution where we had 44 ministers that particular time. I think the last 5 years, Uhuru had to struggle so much, working with about 2019 cabinet ministers. And we do not know really what he saw that made him feel that we need to have these people assisted. But it is a position we have to watch and see what the parliament are going to do about it, because as my friends are putting it, we are not very sure whether the CAS is senior to the principal secretary, who is actually the implementer of the policy, because that is a person who is supposed to be a technical guy. Otherwise, the policy maker, who is a minister in this particular case, seems to be the one to have been assisted to make the policies. Won't there be any conflict of conflict in terms of who gives direction in what? Because the bureaucracy, as far as the running of ministry is concerned, at the moment already has been there. We are too much bureaucracy, whereby you can get a policy that has been formulated, but by the time it gets to the PS and eventually gets implemented, it takes quite a while with back and forth instructions between the PS and the CS. You're not very sure you have to go and see. Now, with the introduction of another politician in between there, it is something that we as Kenyans, we are waiting to see how it will work. But maybe should make
We'll come to you.
Right of reply, in terms of, I wouldn't like it to appear like I'm against Lady CSS. I'm very happy Dr. Monica Juma, Ambassador Juma, has been appointed to Foreign Affairs. I'm just hoping that she will make a difference in terms of diaspora affairs. The previous administration didn't. But having said that, my concern is, can people be appointed to positions on merit? When was the position of the chairperson of the PSC advertised? I'm not saying that Madam Kobia could do that job well, but the manner in which she got and stayed on in the office, it leaves a lot to be desired. Let it be advertised. There are other Kenyans who could also take up these positions. If she competes and wins, that be it. So my point is, let there be merit. It's not that I'm against.
Thank you. Let's hear from Farah.
Yeah, actually, I'm happy that Shem Ochuodho is today on a different wavelength altogether. I was hoping we'd be appointed to the cabinet. He never got appointed. He would have done a very good job, I'm sure, in any. But the other thing I'm waiting for right now is like Muguna will go back to NASA again.
He'll become a general.
NASA is not a solution.
So but Muguna said that, and even more stronger language was used by him. Anyway, the point I'm trying to tell you is that, look, as a cabinet minister, there are certain people who can be taken to any ministry and perform exceptionally well. Matiang'i was in education. He did a very good job.
He was a senior lecturer, actually.
No. He was not a senior lecturer. I know him because I worked with Matiang'i. He was a lecturer, yes, but not a senior lecturer. Matiang'i was an educationist. He went to the Ministry of Education and did a good job. He went to the Ministry of Interior. He done also equally a good job. I mean, people are very happy with him. That's why they placed him where he is. Amina is one person you can take to any ministry. Amina is probably the most experienced technocrat you have in the country here. Amina was chairing the UNCTAD General Conference many years ago, before she even came back as a permanent secretary, when she was in Geneva. So she did so much in terms of trade, and you could see the number of trade, what we call fairs we had in the country and conferences for the period she was there. She was also in the Ministry of Constitutional Affairs as a permanent secretary with Martha Karua, and performed exceptionally well, and also with somebody else. I can see her now in education. By the way, those of you who don't know her, I remember her myself where she was in all those ministries, and she did so much for education. You can imagine all the scholarships Kenyans used to get. She did quite a bit of work those days. So I can see her doing a fantastic job. Actually, Minister of Foreign Affairs was too much for her. I mean, she's been there for too long. She has performed exceptionally well. There's a time you reach a certain optimum, and you want to have a change. So I think it is coming. This change is coming to her at a very good time, and I'm happy she's in that ministry, and I'm sure she'll perform exceptionally well in that ministry too. Now, this cabinet has been appointed not by two people, my friend Samuel Poghisio. Right. This cabinet was appointed by Uhuru alone. In the past, when Uhuru was used to do these things with Raila, it used to be we. Now it's I, and he's there alone, which is understandable. Everybody who is in his second term, even in America, in many other countries, usually does similar things like that. He kind of tries to drop all the baggage he had to try and either make a legacy for himself, or put this country on a pedestal, which he thinks. So I can see him taking all these decisions. And by the way, you look the way he has done things, clearly has a strategy. There's no question about that, because he did not drop any of his old folks. Now, on the issue of, we have here a problem. The problem with Kenyans is that you talk in one language as long as it suits your agenda. The moment that thing is not there again or doesn't obtain, you now run to another. You look for something to fall back on. In this place here with Ochuodho and Njuki and Farah, and we always used to talk about merit. Suddenly, it's only Bondo which has been rewarded. No. If you're talking about merit, then you should be happy if you're going to get 7 ministers coming from one community, as long as they all have the optimum, qualifications, and they're going to perform. We always say that this is not a homogeneous society. It's fairly, with so many nations, 44 nations we're trying to bring together.
Yes.
But then my good friends from the mountain region and from the lakeside, because there were times when the education was pretty much their monopoly, which no longer obtains. I mean, you get more Pokot professors in certain very fine areas than probably you get from the mountain region or you get from the lake region, the way it used to obtain in the early days. So right now, when it comes to merit, you can get a Pokot, you can get a Somali, you can get a Sabaot with the optimum qualification who can perform in anywhere. So talk about, say we want to see the face of Kenya. So don't mix up these things. You know, merit, everybody can qualify for that merit. I pity my friend Poghisio, because it was our assumption that Gideon was going to have a piece of the cake. He never had that piece of the cake. But so did Ruto. Ruto did not also have a piece of the cake. So let's see how it moves on from there.
All right. Let's hear from David Makali as we're winding up on that as well. So the gender rule, first of all, address the issue of the gender rule. Do you think, as you said, of course, Kenya has become a very litigious country. We are bound to move to court, for even a flimsy reasons as well. So do you think, because this had been given by, there's a ruling by Judge Onguto, and I think they suspended it for 8 months because of elections. So the president clearly violated the constitution.
And he has repeated that violation.
Yes.
That's why I'm sure that somebody is going to move to court to cite that particular ruling and the constitution again. Needlessly. I mean, that's why I'm wondering why these goofs happen so frequently when he's best advised by very competent people on that matter. I don't agree with Farah though. His knowledge might be different from mine. His information might be different from mine. But the cabinet, yes, was appointed by the president. But obviously he consulted the deputy to a good measure. The thing is, we have noticed that the president is taking this as his responsibility. Unlike last time when there was this duopoly and this Uhuru presidency. This is Uhuru's presidency, one party. I'm sure Muthomi Njuki here knows he belongs to one party, no longer the two parties they had in some funny marriage. But it's true. I think that if you look at if you analyze the appointments, the influence or the preferences of the deputy president may not have had a lot of consideration. He got some, definitely. I mean, there are about 4 or 5.
Other than Karane, would you say?
What do you mean other than Karane? I mean,
which I'm not quite sure. Farida,
yeah, I mean,
Farida is in a class of her own. I mean, she was a media person. She has had an experience and she qualifies for these things. I don't even know, but let's assume, for argument's sake, she comes from there. Who else would you say is actually?
Well, the other people who, for example, the candidate for Senate, Cherugui, the CS for water, is pretty much said to be his person, and he campaigned for him. I mean, it had to be a settlement that Gideon comes back for Baringo, but Chilugui is pretty man in his corner. There are other people there. I mean, Governor Ukuri Atani, former, is in cabinet. He's one of those people. He's both, maybe. My friend Rashid Mohammed, who has caused a big problem in Western. Is his friend, I'm sure, because I know he has been with him a couple of times, and so there is a possibility that there were appointments that can be attributed to his recommendation, to the deputy's recommendation. The thing is, strategically, it might have been necessary for the president to make this announcement or these appointments in the manner he did, for one reason. You see, the deputy president is aiming for 2022. There are going to be disappointments and disappointments. A lot. In fact, a lot of people are really hurting for missing out on this list. Some have been penalized for things they didn't do. I'm not sure that William Ruto wants to take responsibility for those who are going to be injured, because they might hold a grudge against him. Yeah. But they'll not hold a grudge against the president. So the president can take face for all the mistakes and the good things and get away with it strategically. And that's how I see it.
I was privileged to attend a church session on Saturday with Dr. Matiang'i. And the preacher talked about Proverbs 11:3. That verse especially talks about what happens when the foundation is broken to the good people. we must accept that the Kenyan foundation, the fabric of our nationhood, is challenged. You know, when we talk like this, we're forgetting what's likely to happen in this country tomorrow. We do not know. We are sitting on a precipice. There's half the country that's bleeding, and bleeding hard, much more than I would ever try to put it here. So when I talk like I do my brother Farah, who is also not disappointing, you know, people defend people from their own turf. So I'm not surprised, and I won't hold it against him for that. But the point is that we have a major problem, and I'd thought, as the president has been saying, and as he was saying during his second campaigns, that I'm going to have an inclusive government. My point is that I don't see a difference. Basically, those who have been there are basically appointed. I don't see it's like business as usual. But finally, for Dr. Matiang'i, he's an intellectual. So even if he was lecturer, senior lecturer, you know, I was watching also on Nation TV last night, you know, people we call professors arguing with a young lady. And I say, look, what kind of professors and doctors do we have? So I was giving Dr. Matiang'i credit. Apart from being an intellectual and as a university, even lecturer, that itself gives him some latitude. So it's not just enough. I know people would say, even if you're not an expert in a field,
thank you,
but you need to have, because if you don't have, if you don't have the finance that's required, the people, the technocrats under you are likely to take advantage. So that's why I agree with those who are saying, look, let's put people in places where nobody questions. You see, you say, that one fits where he is.
All right, Poghisio, what is the rhyme and reason of actually having a cabinet without portfolio that is on a need basis, right? We do not truly understand what need basis is. It's like a free radical just waiting, we know, to attack anywhere.
No, I think we're coming to a situation in the country when the political party leading, the ruling party, can actually get its Secretary General to be part of the cabinet. But they be able to propagate the party positions and manifesto within the cabinet. So it is understandable. It used to be. I'm hoping that Debarl, I'm hoping that we can appreciate one thing, that in the 22 cabinet positions, yes, there's 6 women, I think. Yes, 6 women. 6. And that's very close to 1/3. I don't think really we should say there is no consideration for women for that position. The ideal situation should be 7, but 6 is okay.
No, it's not okay because we've not really met the threshold, right? This is actually a litigated matter. We know it's actually in court. It was suspended for 8 months. So we can't say because we are one, woman shy, then we're okay. It's not okay.
But we have the concept of a progressive thing.
Progressive what?
The ruling of the court was that this was incremental. It was not to be done immediately.
No, that was with regard to the parliament.
But you see, it goes.
Mutho's ruling was clear, and he said it's just before elections, so it will be disruptive.
Yes. Can I just explain?
Yes.
You see, it goes ipso facto. You see, these things are related. The 1/3 rule is not just for parliament. It's across the board. So basically, what you rule for in parliament also goes ipso facto with the other institutions of the government, other arms of the government.
Even the Supreme Court incremental one had a time by when it needed to be compliant.
Yes.
Which time has lapsed?
No. You
so
see,
we're not still covered.
The time itself is not cast in stone. There was no ruling on the timing. They just say that it's incremental and it is progressive. Now that progressive could be 5 years, it could be 20 years. I don't know how it's going to be interpreted.
But that's where we have the tripping wire actually. If we say progress, why can't we? By 20?
No, you can't. You see, let me tell you one thing. This is a nascent, a budding, a very young constitution itself, and is something we're experimenting with. So it's clearly going to take a bit of a time for that thing to be fully realized. And I have a feeling myself, it's not going to be 1 or 2 or 3 elections. It's going to be at least another 4 elections before we can say, yes, effectively this has done. And by the way, in the meantime, in the back of the framers of this constitution, the back of the mind, including myself who was there, the issue was that there's going to be such a progress that we will not be behaving like a communist party, that with certain empowerments, the other gender would be able also to build up on it. Look at, for example, the number of governors we have who came in through elections. And the possibility is that we're going to get many more members of parliament. And the number of members of parliament who came through elections were female.
Thank you.
So in a period of time, this thing is going to, in my opinion, be realized. But it's going to take time.
Let's say from you agree with him?
Six out of 7, I think it's a powerful.
Or even if it takes 20 good years, it's still progressive. Let's say from Your Excellency.
Basically, Debarl, we have done well, because we're having an improvement from the previous cabinet, where we now have very, very close to being able to attend that. So let's give credit where it's due, because 6 out of 22, it's good enough. It's good enough, although it can get better. But considering that in other parts of this country, especially the county governments, we have also seen it of course, in the composition of the governors. There has been deliberate effort by the appointments to be able to achieve that. But the onus lies squarely on the electorates of this country, because they're the ones who have the liberty to choose and ensure that we have more female gender in appointed positions. But that has not been the case in most of the communities, and that is where we should take the next frontier in terms of education, to understand why we need to have this balance. Because we will keep on having appointments and struggle to be able to achieve that balance. But the elective positions, where now wananchi express themselves, that is the one that keeps on letting people down.
Right. Judge Ochuodho was very clear that the cabinet appointments of 2017 must adhere to the gender rule.
Yes, sure.
It was very clear. It was not a matter of being progressive until we don't have any stipulated time. It was just, it must adhere. From these particular appointments, the president has not adhered or has not actually kept up to this particular ruling by the judge. David.
That is true. So that's why I have a bit of a
excuse me,
difficulty with Farah Maalim's explanation about the incremental. I think the principle was incremental, progressive achievement.
Yes.
But I do remember also the Supreme Court, I think, placed a certain timeline within which legislation needed to be put in place to ensure compliance with that provision, which of course has not succeeded, because Parliament has been unable to agree on a mechanism for achieving it. But Ochuodho's was clear that that matter was, below the constitutional requirement and needed to be brought up to the bar, except that because the elections were too near, 8 months to an election,
yes,
the ruling was suspended. So you expect that after the election, compliance would be automatic. And so that is going to be an issue, definitely.
With Debarl, actually, the term progressive has been abused even in our constitution. Article 182 talks about progressive realization in a slightly different context. But I do know it's a fact that often is abused. I agree with David and yourself, Debarl. The Justice Ochuodho pronounced himself pretty well on this matter. It's clear. But I also agree with Senator Poghisio that we must also distinguish between the letter and spirit of the Constitution. The spirit requires that there's gender parity and equity. The fact that we're even talking of 30%, we actually should be talking of 50%. But that's a process that's realized. So to that extent, personally, I wouldn't fault the president when instead of having 7 women cabinet secretaries, which itself is also still a little below the threshold of 30%, because if it's 22, it would be 7 point something, which would be a third. But having said that, I'd even be more concerned about the quality of the ladies. I'm very happy Madam Cecily Kariuki is retained, because I think she did fairly well where she was. So my premise would be I would equally be concerned about the quality of the ladies that we bring on the front line. So this is the point that I was trying to make, that even though there's the issue of equity, and Farah was talking of we would have maybe the best doctors from Pokot, that's fine. But the Constitution is clear. It doesn't talk only of merit. And it also talks of equity. It also talks of diversity. So it's a self-healing document. So no matter, even if you had to have 7, 10 best people from one community, chances are that you'll also get good people from the Turkanas, the Maasais, the Somalis, and all.
Right.
So you can't read one in exclusion of the other aspects.
Thank you.
On a very late note.
What problem Shem has with the quality of the ladies?
on
Not the quality of the men. Because the quality of the men is much in issue.
Shem has an issue, I'll tell you.
Yes.
And he's not saying it
Can we hear
very
from
loudly.
Poghisio?
Let me just say Shem has an issue.
Let's
So the issue with Shem is that, one, he sees too many pastoralists there. He sees Munyes, he sees Okur, he sees Amina, he sees Adan, and he can't understand why there can be more pastoralists than Luos. Point number one. It's good sometimes to be very honest about these things.
Okay.
And then he sees the
Very
women.
light note. Huh?
Yes.
Starting with you.
Yes.
Look at this bench.
Yeah.
What happened to the ladies?
To the ladies.
Yes. Where is the damn balance?
Gender balance on this program as well.
Yeah.
It's been a reason, but I've also expressed my frustrations with the ladies, especially when they actually called to come up on the panel. Right,
Yeah.
some of them, but it's a challenge for them as well.
Right.
They've got duties in the morning. Yes, so most of
Children
them
to go to
cancel
school.
children to go to school. So and
You're
they need.
assuming that they all have to do that.
Yeah.
Anyway.
All right, let's hear from
I think one of the things that the president has shown, though, is that even with the few ladies that he has assigned them what you would call serious ministries.
They're very good.
And so that is trust enough to say, I picked these people, but I'm also sharing with them even the most difficult tasks. And I believe that really goes without a question. The whole idea about whether or not the gender thing has been, that will be sorted out. That will be sorted out. I mean, people will litigate and it will be sorted out. However, I'm just saying that there's a big improvement and there's a good intention. When it comes now to the CAS, that section of the CAS, then that's where now you can say the president there has not really met that threshold. And it cannot be incremental in the sense that the overall appointments fall short. And I think somebody can challenge that, because I think there's only one woman, I think, in the CAS. How many?
Yes, Rachel Shebesh.
It's just only Rachel Shebesh.
Yes.
So there can be.
But still, we have positions that will be appointed as well. So
you never know.
We never know
if they're going to be filled.
Yeah.
I'd like to deal with the whole issue that we have today, that you cannot appoint somebody to cabinet unless they are going to contribute. That community contributes so much to your political numbers, and I think that's where we will always fail to meet the threshold of technocrats, or what you're calling meritocracy. And so because there's no need, because you're looking at numbers, and now 2022 is here. It's actually a factor in these appointments. 2022 is a factor in this appointment. So you're looking, who is going to bring me more votes? How do I reward them? So the chances of the likes of pastoralists and small communities joining in, and I want to tell you, one day when Kenyans realize that the best people to put in service of this country are the smaller communities.
Pastoralists, mainly.
The pastoralists. The people who will not necessarily balkanize this country. Those are the people you need for your service. The rest of the large communities already have opportunities. They have opportunities elsewhere. They have the opportunities in the economy. They have opportunities everywhere. But in the service of this country,
Academia.
you need to bring back the idea that the communities which are in the fringes can actually serve you better.
Right, but appointment of Munyes and yes, to actually...
And tokenism is okay.
Tokenism, but also the docket that he has right now, many perceive it to be, trying to neutralize what is happening with Turkana County as well, as far as oil is concerned. So, right, the bandits are saying that, this is trying to, sort of pacify the community, because we know about the petroleum bill as well. That was very contentious, and there has been that frosty relationship between, Turkana County Governor and the President, so to speak. Where are we coming from? Because this is public knowledge. Maybe David, you can weigh in on this very briefly.
Well, I think the appointment is one of those where you are sending a person who represents stakeholders to a ministry, because Munyes comes from Turkana. Petroleum is going to be a contentious issue. He might moderate the issues of local claims to the resource there and representation, and how the resources are going to be used to improve the community there. I think that was an appropriate posting, if you ask me, and it will help to liquidate the threats against mining, exploration of that particular resource. So it will smoothen the country's way forward on that.
Right.